So when I think about the journey from 13 to now, I would say that I thought that I would be way up there, right? But who doesn't when they start music as a teenager? But what I never would have thought was that I wouldn't make those expectations, but still be satisfied with the results. Because back then, I was kind of like bedazzled by, you know, the crowds, the lights, you know, the money, whatever like that. I just imagine I'd be as big as, you know, Lil Wayne, Drake back then, if you would have asked me as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old kid. But right now, I found some peace in my own situation that I got right now. Actually, a few years ago, is when it started. When I started actually learning about the business that I was in. Back then, it was just a hobby that I got an adrenaline rush off of after every, you know, stage performance. Then I had that crash when I went back to work the next day. So now knowing that it's changing my life, and you know, a lot of people's asking me, "Oh, you gonna stop doing music or whatever?" And I smile and I'm like, "Bro, like, music is the reason why I'm able to make this move. Let's just be clear. The income I'm getting from my music, the royalties or whatever, like, you know, everybody else got their own kind of like preconceptions on what's making it for them. But if I could pay my bills, I fucking made it. And I remember like 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago, I was able to pay a phone bill with my music royalties, and I was so happy for myself, you know what I'm saying? But I also knew that I was just starting, because I remember a status I put: if I can make $1, I can make 10. If I can make 10, I can make 100. If I can make 100, I can make 1,000. And it's funny because when I was at that point of making finally $100 to pay a phone bill, it was so much cheers and, you know, oh, congratulations, bro, and all that. But as I started noticing, I've been getting studied more often. You know, people kind of like backed up, but only like called me to like pick my brain or whatever. And, you know, I love music. I love the music business. I could talk about this shit for hours. But I also understood that it was a time where I started losing friends and gaining watchers, if I was to say more accurately. But that's okay, you know. I just wish that people would embrace what I was actually doing a bit more, you know, because I'm down for the education, you know what I'm saying? I love this shit, you know, YouTube University all day, and I pay for a course to learn something that will save me years of time. But even back then, when I had my first $100 royalty check, my first $12 royalty check actually was my first one from United Masters. And it took so much fucking effort to get $12 back then. I almost felt defeated. I really almost felt defeated back then. But I stuck through because I had a friend who invested thousands of dollars and damn near quit when he got back a $75 royalty check. And this boy, yeah, he took out a loan and everything, you know, got mad CDs, ordered, packaged and shit. We went to Virginia, Massachusetts, New York City, giving them shits out just for the, like, you know what I mean, that adrenaline rush artists get when they feel like they're doing something. But when it was time for the money to come back, he seen like, y'all spent this much, made this much, I'm about to quit, you know. And I felt that. I felt bad for him. But that's what sent me down the path of learning how the music money works, actually, how the music industry works, how people lock in and turn something, may not be superstar status, but turn it into something sustainable. So 4 years later, here I am getting ready to leave the country and doing it with confidence, able to quit my job with confidence, because I know my monthly overhead is met by the amount of music that I have online. And for the guys that don't understand the scale that I'm operating at, as of today, I have 113 of my songs out online, just with Volsera Omar. Now with my production with me and Armani, that would make an extra 75 songs that I have total online. So I'm pushing almost 200 songs. Almost. I would say give it a couple more months. I'll probably drop a few more singles and then we'll officially hit 200 songs online. So with these 200 songs and me getting like, you know, these small numbers add up pretty much, right? And I recently been studying Spotify, been studying YouTube algorithm. I even went back in like ChatGPT, Pandora's Genome Project, where they kind of like blueprinted the whole thing that Spotify piggybacked off of with their radio and all of that. I study all of this shit just to figure out how the fuck do I turn these songs into money? Because if it's just sitting there, it's not doing anything. That led me down to Facebook ads, social media marketing, this whole concept of not selling to people, but just like talking and expressing yourself, and then let the music just kind of like background itself into the situation. Well, a few years of trial and error, losses, gains, I finally figured it out. And as of last summer, it was like one of the most iconic moments, I would say, in my like music career, because off of royalties, I was able to match my monthly income with my job. And back then is when I first posted this music shit. Finally makes enough to quit my job. Keep in mind, it took almost like 11, 12 months to actually quit my job, because I was working about what was the next transition. If I was able to match my wages with my music, what's next? Would it really be a benefit to stack both at the same time, or would I burn myself out? Well, guess what I did? I tried to stack both at the same time, because I'm like, well, if I can make this much at my job, this much at music, I could double dip. Bad decision as far as my music was concerned, because I experienced a whole total burnout. I got demotivated with writing. I dipped into the back catalog to like compensate for it and release all the music that was good enough and shit, but it really slowed down my process. And it was years ago where I realized that job was always the problem. It wasn't nothing else that was the real problem but my job. That 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, I was dedicated to supposedly the retirement plan or whatever. But that job was never a 60-year-old guy working a job was never my retirement plan. I'd rather retire by 40. And hip hop is the reason why I'm able to do this today. And I didn't need $1 million to do it. I didn't need $100,000 to do it. No, I didn't need these yearly wages or whatever, like everybody make you convinced that you have to do. What I had to do is figure out what works for me. Luckily, I'm in a very peculiar but good situation for me, where I have grandparents who are immigrants, in-laws, grandparents of immigrants. My wife, Puerto Rican, Dominican, so the American dollar is still strong out there. So this was like the basis of my thoughts. If I can make like 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, I'm really just aiming for 2,000 a month, whether it's social media, music, whatever, $2,000 a month. That being translated to Dominican pesos, $1 is $58 as of right now. The average Dominican makes about $800 to $1,000 per month. So if I make my two, I'm doubling what the average worker lives out there. I'm comfortably middle class. That seems like more of a retirement plan if my money is dependent on the internet and not dependent on a 9-to-5 where they trick you into that job security. And luckily, hip hop got me there. And a couple years ago, I would have never thought. I would have never thought the raps I was writing was going to take care of my family. I didn't have a family at that point when I was writing some of the raps. That's why it lacked substance and shit like that. But I've been called a few different things in this whole process, you know what I'm saying? And I've been dropping little breadcrumbs about my moves, but never was really direct with what my actual plan was until my lease was signed and I came back. And I was like, boom, I'm getting ready to move to DR. But keep in mind, I've been planning this shit for years and just didn't know the location. And in January, I made my mind up and I spoke with my family about this and we started making moves in the process. But I'm only making this video to let you guys know that you don't have to have the American dream or the rapper dream or the R&B dream, whatever like that the world tells you to do. You can have your own rules to how you choose to live your life, pursue your music. And it's unfortunate when people get to a certain age, they opt out because they're like, oh, well, I ain't rich, I'm gonna quit. That's not a good enough reason to quit. And I've seen so many of my friends do this, make great music, great artists, great people, but that money is the thing that taxes them. The lack thereof is what taxes them. And when they feel like it's too much effort, not enough reward, they quit, and I get it. And I wish I could figure it out for everybody, but I really can't. You know what I'm saying? I can talk and discuss and whatever, but everybody is like on their own journey. So even what works for me may not work for y'all. You know what I'm saying? What's my comfortable level may not be y'all comfortable level. But I will say that, like, if you're at that point where you're like where I was at in your 30s, questioning whether you even wanted to keep on going or not, yeah, like, you can use me as an example, or you can use me as a cautionary tale, or whatever you so choose to, or other people. But shit is possible as long as you're okay with being uncomfortable for a little bit. As long as you're okay with, like, learning the business you actually in. But it's going to take a point where you have to get away from that naivety. Because everybody who's dropping a video is always going to tell you some shit to sell something to you. Whether it's to sell a course, whether it's to sell you a product. But it's like I would say we're infested with people who's trying to sell shit to you. Very few people are just trying to talk to you. Very few people are just trying to give their perspective. And for artists, where you're literally the last person to make money, but the first one they expect to make money at the same time, it's a weird space because you're getting taxed by your producers, you're getting taxed by your DJs, you're getting taxed by the musicians if you choose to do a band, you're getting taxed by the distributors, you're getting taxed by every point of the music industry is reaching into your pocket. And you're that one common denominator that everybody is pulling from, and they're expecting you to blow up after having their hand in your pockets for years on end, let alone if they have a subscription-based model. They're all in your pockets, and they're like, well, why don't you blow up yet? It's not decided just based off of that. Like, if support was truly enough, I think a lot of more people would be successful. And if talent was truly enough, I think a lot of more people would be successful. But when we look at it, like, to be a successful musician is a different thing to having a successful business. And I think that we have plenty of successful musicians, you know, have plenty of great stories to tell, seen a lot of different things, but for whatever reason, not everybody separates the two. Success isn't always based on money, and I understand that now as I'm 30. Success is based on the experiences you have, and if you was to die at that moment, you'd be like, it was a good journey, it was a good run. That's success to me. You know what I mean? But a few years ago, I shifted from wanting to be a successful musician to just be a successful businessman. And I remember about a year ago almost, keep in mind, I don't have management, but I've had a few people come by and present their offers to manage me. But I'm such inside of my business. I could be a manager's best friend, but also I understand a manager is my employee. It doesn't always work with their egos. But he asked me, do you really want to be in this music shit? Do you really want to be an artist? And yeah, I do want to be an artist, but above all, I know that's not the end all be all. I want to have a successful business. He's like, oh, so you want to be a businessman? Yes, I've been a businessman. I've been an artist. But if you're asking me what I want to be, the artist is going to be inside me whether I make music or not. But the business part, that's something I have to cultivate. That's something I have to study. That's something that needs to pivot with the times and the markets and shit. So yes, if you ask me, what do I want to be, a successful artist, or he's just an artist. I gave him an example of my goals, and he just came to simplify, oh, so you just want to be in the music business. Yes, for sure. I want to be in the music business and thrive, because for me, I didn't see my end game being like Snoop Dogg where he can't retire. Like, a lot of people may got respect for him, and I do too. But I also see when he complained on Spotify about his pay rate and the amount of work he's done with the movie industry, with everything, like, he's been lit since the 80s. He cannot retire. I don't want that for me. At a certain point, I want to be able to live off the fruits and not have to go back and get to work. You know what I mean? What's going on? So, I've been doing a lot of soul searching when it comes to this whole music industry thing. And I would say, do not follow nobody else's path. Do not live up to no one else's expectations. You set your precedent. You set your path. You set your expectations. You don't need $1 million to feel like you're a success. You know what I mean? You don't. Last year, I think I made off of my music minimum wage. If I was to, like, the minimum wage of a full year, what is that like? 20, maybe between 20 and 30 grand off my music. That's if you was to have a job and get paid that, you'd be pissed. You'd be making like 15, 14 an hour. But when I think about it, it's off of something that I created. That's a success story, right? Who knows? I guess that's up for me to decide for everything else. But I would just say, but really everything, hip hop did change my life. For the first rap that I wrote, I never would have thought I'd be at this point where I'm getting ready to change my family's life within 6 days. The music made it possible. And I appreciate everybody on the step of the way, everybody who believed in me, you know, even when I ain't always believed in myself. It's kind of the reason why I didn't do too many events. I believed in certain things, but not the full thing, you know? So, you feel like quitting? I'm just saying, don't. Because that's when you actually fail. And a few years ago, when my son started being old enough to talk, my oldest, and he started asking me where I'm going, why I wasn't here and there, and why I was leaving at certain times when I was going doing shows, I told myself quietly, this all cannot be for nothing. I need to have something to show for it. So he asked me when he gets older, hey, Dad, why wasn't you here there? I could tell him to help build what you're standing in right now. And I feel like I'm almost there. Season 2 getting ready to start in a few days.